Hello and welcome back to the Kitchen Table Modelers Workshop. My name's Ian, this is my kitchen table where I do all my modelling. Today is review day. I've got a new kit, which if you look over my shoulder you can see from Amusing Hobbies. It's the Centurion Mk.5 AVRE, which stands for Armoured Vehicle Royal Engineers. And I have to say, when I heard this kit was announced, I was so excited. This has to be one of my most favourite incarnations of the Centurion. I mean, I really like the Centurion as a battle tank, but having it as an combat engineers vehicle really excited me. I have a thing for combat engineers vehicles, and a lot of my armour in the stash is of derivatives of main battle tanks being turned into combat engineers vehicles. So Amusing Hobbies is the first time I've ever had a kit from them. I've seen a few different reviews of other kits they've brought out. So they've brought Conquerors out, they've also tooled up for the standard Mk.5 Centurion. They have some German Panzers, paper Panzers and the like, and they have some aircraft kits, and I've heard good things about them. So I thought, got to give it a go, see how it is, and get a hold of it. The kit itself is the first time it's been tooled in styrene. Accurate Armour have done one in resin, and it commands a really good price wherever you want to get it from. It's an expensive kit, so to have one in styrene, really exciting. Makes it more affordable for the average modeler like myself. So enough waffling from me. Let's get on the table, let's have a look at the box, and then let's get inside and see what we've got in there. Okay, so we're on the table and there's the box art. Full action pose in a very hot and dusty climate. Now I think, if our memory serves me right, the last operational deployment for this particular vehicle was in the First Gulf War. And I'm not overly sure about the flags on the antennas, but probably a bit of artistic license going on. So, kit number 35 A035 in 1/35th scale, and it's a Centurion Mk.5 AVRE Armoured Vehicle Royal Engineers from Amusing Hobby. If we look on the side, then we have, shaking the camera there, so if we can get that in focus, we've got a side image, side profile of the vehicle in its desert camouflage, and it tells you box contains parts for assembly 1 model kit, English manual and photo etch parts, paint and glue not included. So there we go, made in China and for people over 14 years of age, so it's not for children. And there is the Amusing Hobbies logo, Centurion Mk.5 AVRE, and the kit number. If we look on the end, we've just got a repeat of the box top, and if we look on the other long side of the box, we have got a couple of images, side profiles of 2 different vehicles and 2 slightly different camouflage schemes, so it'll be interesting to see what those vehicles are. And then the other end is just a repeat of the small narrow end. Now the box is a little bit damaged. I live in a remote location in the UK, so it comes through post and it's had a bit of a paste in, but I'm sure everything inside will be okay. So let's lift the box top off and see what we've got. Now, this is a first for me. I've not looked in it. I've just got the camera out and gotten going. So, first off, we've got instructions. Nice colour photo on the front of the instructions. And then a box full of plastic. Now, a top opening box, and it's quite a stout box. And it appears that everything is okay. So, let's have a look at the instructions first, and then we can go through the screws. So there's no history about the vehicle, just telling you to read through the manual. Contains small parts, the usual sort of safety warnings you get with plastic model kits these days. And you get a nice sprue map. So you've got 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sprues, a hole, some springs. So we might have working suspension. Some cable rope, photo etch, the 2 flags and the decals. Diving straight into section 1, then we're making up the, I think it's called Horsman suspension. I could be wrong and I stand corrected if I am wrong, but it does appear that you don't glue it and it has an active spring, so we're going to have working suspension in this kit, which is fantastic. I know you had the option, or a hop-up option, in some of the AFV Club Centurions. where you could buy working suspensions. So it'll be interesting to see how this compares to those. I've built a couple of those chassis and they build really well. So bringing up the suspension, 2-part wheels. It looks like they're just going to be glued to the axles. So they're saying don't glue, but I don't see any polycaps in there. So I'm not sure how that's going to go together. And then we move on. We've got the brackets for the return rollers on the top and the standoff brackets here for the side armour plate. Part 3, we're moving on to making up the final drive. And then part 4, we're putting some front assembly on before we move on to do the idler sprockets at the front. Now, part 5, you're putting the idler gear together and it looks like you're assembling the return rollers. It says not to glue and it's adjustable for track tension. So again, how well that's going to work, I don't know. Part 6 is assembling the track. You want 102 links per side, no glue, clipped together, so they may well be workable tracks. Again, I've never built this kit before, so I don't know if they're going to be workable. The chances are, when I build it, they'll just be glued together and then molded around the running gear, because I'm not one for having working tank tracks. Part 7, you're moving on to the rear of the hull. You've got some bits of plastic to remove to put in toe-in points. Part 8, we're looking at more parts. It's probably exhaust baffles going on the rear of the tank, and then you've got some more maybe lifting brackets and possibly a field telephone box. Part 9, that gets second piece gets affixed to the rear of the hull, and then you've got the rear tow-in mount there, should it need to tow any trailers or whatnot. Right, so it's reasonably quick construction. So part 11, we've got the driver's cupolas, or driver's hatch even. Now, I believe when this tank first came in, there was a bow gunner, which that position was long deleted. So I believe this position here is the driver's position, and that is just used for stowage, possibly for ammunition, but obviously haven't deleted the hatch on it. You've got the rear louvered deck for the radiators and such for the engine bay. And then moving on to part 13, we're starting to build up the front glacis plate, which looks to be integrally molded to the front of the mud guards or track guards. And then we're attaching some ERA, so that's explosive reactor armor panels, to the front glacis plate. And then we've got a nice headlight assembly. Again, the build's moving on quite speedy, isn't it? Part 15, then we're obviously attaching stuff to the track guards. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there doesn't seem to be much between part 14 and part 15 where... Oh no, sorry, part 14, so the track guards are going on. There we go. And then we're putting all the affixings onto them. Both sides, so we've got exhausts, mufflers, air intakes. This will be exhausts here for the Rolls-Royce Meteor maybe that was in this, I'm not sure. Tools, Pioneer tools, detailed picture there, obviously for positioning of the rear track guard. And then we've got the side armour panels that's telling us we're going to cut out a piece of this, so hopefully that'll be marked so we can cut accurately. Side armour panels go on, and then we've got a patch of up armour, whether that's Dorchester or just larger explosive reactive armour, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's certainly what was on the tank when it was in field, so it's been modelled in styrene. Same again for 19 through to 20, so it's basically just the reverse of the left-hand side of the vehicle. We're now on the right-hand side of the vehicle, so we're getting the exhaust assembled, rear track guard, Pioneer tools, and the same for the side skirts. Right, tow cables, so we've got a measurement there, so that looks to be 1:1 scale, so that's handy for the modeler to get the right length of cable, and then we're making up 2, attached to the middle and 1 to either side. So there's plenty of detail here, and it's reasonably accurate as to how the tank was. From there, we're now moving on to the front dozer blade. And maybe if we're careful, I don't know, but maybe if we're careful, it's not saying don't glue, but there's a chance we could make this operational. Certainly make it posable if you want to put it in a diorama with it tucked into the ground, digging up a channel to go hold down or something, or breaking through a berm, which I know these actually did when they entered Kuwait from Saudi. Then these tanks were in the lead and they bulldozed the berms for the armour columns to proceed in the first Gulf War. So 23, 24, that's the front dozer blade. 25, it gets attached to the front hull. And then 26, we're making up the turret. Now, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4-part turret, so it'll be interesting to see how the seams are. There was never a cast seam where the turret halves join, so we'll probably have to do a bit of remodeling of the cast texture on the turret to hide that seam. This is a similar assembly as to the AFE Club Centurion turrets as well. Side carrying compartments on the turret, and they are for both sides. It makes the turret quite distinctive. And we're also then looking at the main gun. Now the main gun was actually a demolition type gun. I think it was about 152 millimeters, and it fired big demolition charges for taking on hardened structures. It looks as if we've got a slide molded barrel because there's just one piece, which would be brilliant if that's the case. Possibly even with rifling detail in it, which is even better. So no metal barrel needed for that. A few odds and sods going on the top of the turret. I think there'll be a vent panel, a couple of antenna bases, a few little tie-down hooks. We've got the commander's coupler, and we have brackets here. I'm not sure what for, but it's got a little pulley in it, so it'll be interesting to see what that's for. And a Browning machine gun, which I don't think will be correct for the theatre that this vehicle was serving. I have a feeling that this would have been a GPMG 7.62, not a 30 caliber Browning machine gun. I'll have to do a bit of research when I come to build the kit to see if that is right or not, but I fear that that may need to be changed out for a GPMG. Now, I don't know which vehicle that Amusing Hobbies used to do their research, but I can't vouch for accuracy, and to be honest with you, I'm not overly fussed. If it looks like an AVRE, it's an AVRE in my book. So we've got the rear turret bustle here going together, and this will be photo etched parts going in, which is fantastic. And then we have got the front era explosive reactive armour going on the front of the turret and the side, and the smoke discharges. And then the final piece is obviously the opposite side, and then we're bringing it all together. So we've got 36 steps. It's not too complicated a construction. And then we're moving on to painting. So this is the desert scheme. So this will just be British desert sand and very little decals. So it's not going to take us a huge amount of time. Most time will be spent in actually painting and then weathering. This is an old vehicle, lots of nuts and bolts and nooks and crannies, so it gives us great opportunity to weather it up. And you've even got a round that was fired out of the gun. Whether those are right or not, I don't know. I've never seen one of the rounds, so I can't testify as to the writing on the shell. And then we've got 3 colour pictures. So the first one's obviously the decals, and then this is the colour. So we've got batter scheme. Oh, now that's the British Army Training Unit Suffield, I think, if I remember rightly. It's in Canada. Big army training ground out there, that we have vehicles out there, and the guys do big training manoeuvres and exercises. So that's a Canadian scheme, which is interesting. Then we've got the desert scheme from the First Gulf War. And then finally, we have the NATO scheme, which, all being said, might well be the one I'll do, because I've got lots of desert coloured vehicles, but I really fancy doing some modulated weathering in the 3-tone NATO green, 2-tone NATO green, NATO black camouflage. So there we go. That's really all-encompassing instructions. They look not too bad. Let's have a look at the parts. So everything's individually sealed in individual bags. Obviously there's multiple sprues in each bag. Let me just grab a knife or a pair of scissors, and we can open these bags up and see what we have got. Now, as I said, I have built a few Centurions in my time and Centurion derivatives. So I've built AFV Club ones, and I've built Tiger models Nagmahon, and I'm building Hobby Boss's Nagmahon early at the moment, and all those vehicles are either a Centurion or they're based on the Centurion chassis. So these parts are quite familiar to me. First off the bat, can you hear that? Really nice crisp styrene, good quality plastic there, so it's looking good straight away. So these are 4 duplicates for the running gear. So there is no flash that's visible, and the way they've molded a lot of the parts, like the road wheels, there isn't actually a burr line on them because the mold is separated at the front of the wheel, which is brilliant for cleanup. They're all crisply molded. The detail is a little bit soft on the nut, on the bolts, but all in all, when you get them painted and weathered, it's going to pop. They maybe could have been a bit sharply molded, but I'm not complaining. It looks really good to me. There's a little bit of flashy burr in the center there where it's been ejected from the mold. It's not a problem. So that's the rear of the unit. That bit will be protruding below the hull, and this is the front of the unit. Again, compared to, I think, both AFV Club and Hobby Boss and Tiger models, all 3 of those companies, the detail's a little bit soft. It's visible, it's going to take a wash, but it's not as crisp and as sharp as the other companies. But I'm not knocking the kit for that. It is what it is. And once you get paint on it and get your weathering, pin washes, and a little bit of weathering, it'll be fine, and you'll never notice the difference. But just in the plastic, you can just feel it's a little bit softly molded, but it's fine. It's all there. Yeah, there doesn't appear to be anywhere in the road wheels for a poly cap, and if we look at the end cap, then there is a hole, so it would appear the road wheels may be glued on, which kind of defeats the purpose of having working suspension, but hey ho, I don't know, we'll see when we build it. Next, sprue, nice big bag of its own. We have got the rest of the suspension unit, and we've got the main drive sprockets. Now, detail again, really nice. A little bit soft as before, but it's still there. It's still going to paint up and take a wash really, really nicely. We have got the fishtail exhausts, and there's, if you can see that, if I can get that to focus, yeah, come on, there we go. You can see there is even detail at the end of the exhaust, so when you do a bit of dry brushing and a bit of pin washing, you're going to look as if you've got a hollowed out exhaust, which is brilliant for plastic modelling. That's styrene modelling, it's great. It's the end of the tow cables. It's all flash free, nicely moulded, minimal burring. You know, swipe of a blade just to go down the seam line, it's all going to be gone. We've got the front idler wheels here, again, nice detail, crisply moulded, nice fine connection points, so it'll be easy to remove them from the sprue. And the tow cable ends have been slide moulded, so you've already got them hollowed out. A little bit of flash on the end there, but again, it's nothing to worry about. Being really quite nitpicky, to be honest with you. Right, next sprue is parts for the turret and the infamous machine gun, which I'm very sure is wrong. They never chambered these in 762 as far as I'm aware, and I know certainly by the time the Gulf War was on, everything was 762, so I'm sure I'm going to have to replace that for a GPMG, which is not going to be a problem, so I've got some in my spares box. Anyway, I'm waffling. Smoke dischargers, nicely moulded, very little burring. Nice clean-up points as well on the front of the tubes and the rear of the smoke discharger, so fine cut and away. These, not sure what parts they are. There are ejector pins in the back. They're reasonably shallow, so not going to take any filling. Chances are you're not going to see them, so you probably won't even need to worry about them. We've got some what appear to be grab handles or something. They're very finely moulded. They've actually got little bolt details on them. So nothing to complain about here. And to be fair, the machine gun is really nicely moulded. You can see that there's depressions in the air cooling jacket. So if you were to use that, a nice little bit of dry brushing, it's going to come off a treat. Cable reel holder, standard on most British tanks. It'll hold wire for a field telephone. These are the mounts for the smoke dischargers, and then we've got a hatch of some sort, and that looks to be part of the barrel assembly. Really nice. Yeah, I'm okay with that. As I said, I'm not a huge rivet counter, and I'm not knocking rivet counters because I respect everyone that likes to have accuracy in their models. I'm just, if it looks like it, it is it. That's fine by me. Right, turret parts. Nice sprue here. And the first thing I have to say that catches my eye, if I can get it into focus, is the cast texture on the turret is lovely. Very subtle, it's there. It's going to take a wash or filter really, really nicely. I really don't know if you can see this. I'm trying to get it to focus so you can catch it in the light. See back when I edit the video, but beautiful cast texture, and it goes right the way around the turret. And these were cast turrets, they were cast in one piece. So this is where we're going to have to take our time around the rear of the turret. When we do join it together, we're going to have to make sure that we use a few techniques, whether that's stippling with a bit of Mr. Surfacer 1200 or 500 to get that technique back in, or simply when we glue it up, just put plenty of glue on and then stipple it with, the glue applicator to get that seam to disappear. If it was me, I'll probably glue the turret up and let it set hard before I start adding anything on to reintroduce the cast texture, so we don't end up with any ghost seams or anything like that. Commander's coupler, and then we've got the boxes for the side bustles here and here, which have all got really nice detail on them. There are ejector pins, they're all going to be inside, you're not going to see them. Possibly hatches here with no ejector pins. So where it counts, it appears Amusing Hobbies are keeping the ejector pins out of the way, which is huge kudos in my book, because there are companies that don't work like that. But it does seem to be getting more like the norm that they keep the ejector pins away from the detail you're going to see. Right, so now we are looking at the gun. Now, it's slide molded and it's got rifling detail. It's quite pronounced, I have to say, that is quite pronounced. And there's just a fine ridge of flash on the end of the barrel. Nothing but a swipe of a sanding stick will take it off. However, it's beautifully round, and there's minimal bearing on the side of that. I don't know if you can see that, but it's nothing to take off. So I mean, 10 out of 10 for that. The armor panels for the side, again, the detail's a little bit soft. I mean, it's all there, but it's just not as sharp and crisp as, you know, Tamiya would get that bolt detail beautiful. AFV Club would have that beautiful Hobby Boss Tiger models. They would all have slightly sharper, pronounced detail on that. It's there. You know, if you really want to go and cut them all off and redo it, fine, but it's good enough for me. Bolt detail on the ERA, and standoffs on the back of it. Now, I don't know if this is scale thickness. It probably won't be far off, to be honest with you, but I do know they were slightly stood off, so there was a space between the ERA and the mounting panel on the front of the hull, the turret. So, you know, it looks like they've been done a bit of research and got something right. This looks like they're part of the dozer blades, maybe. Again, nice detailed moulding, if a little bit soft. I suppose that's the only thing I can see. But don't take that as a criticism. I'm really, really happy with the level of detail in this kit. Now, what have we got here? We have got the louvered deck for the rear of the tank, and we've got the dozer blade. We've got the front hatch area and the front glasses plate. We've got the mantlet for the gun, which again has got rolled steel texture on it. Looks really nice. Bolt detail, sharp enough. We've got hinge detail here, sharp enough. This will be your standoffs, or the feet of the standoffs for your ERA on your glasses plate. You can hear that. That's good detail. It's going to take a wash brilliantly. And to be fair, if we look, I don't know if you can see the handles for, because these things are all hinged and they would lift up. So if I can get that to focus a bit more, but it would appear that there's a slight undercut under the handle, so got to give it to them. That's really nice. Really nice detail for molded in detail. This is the ERA for the front glasses plate. We have the rear tow hitch. Not sure what that part is. And this will possibly be guards for the lights or something like that. And then we've got other options for maybe smoke discharges. Now, I'm not sure what these parts are for, but I'm sure it will come to light in the instructions. Yeah, nice. Okay, next sprue, and there's only one more after this and then the hull. Okay, so we have got the track guards, the final drives, the rear hull plate, and then we actually do have the front glasses plate, which is integrally molded with the front track guards. Fantastic. Nice plastic. Again, it's really nice detail. Yes, it may be, the bolt heads may be a little bit soft, but you've got the cast detail in the final drives. It's going to take a wash fantastic. It's going to look really good. You've got all the catches molded in to the lockers, and they look fantastic. Really finely molded shovels for the Pioneer tools. No, I'm really impressed with this. Lots of details down to the piano hinges on the side cupboards. No, I can't complain about that. That's really nice molding. For a company that I've never had a model for, I'm really quite impressed. I'm quite excited to get on and build this. I might have to come up the build schedule somewhat. Okay, side armour plates. Now, as I hoped in the instructions, if we look on the reverse, there's a couple of injector pins. They are not going to bother us one little bit. A few swipes with a sanding stick and a pair of cutters to get that off. They're going to be gone. They're on the reverse side. You're not going to see them. There is, however, molded in cut lines for where we need to cut out for putting in the up armour sections, which is fantastic. So that completely removes any ambiguity. A few swipes with a very sharp scalpel or a pea cutter or even a razor saw, and you're going to have these off, sanded up and usable in no time at all. We have got the turret ring. Again, nice bolt detail on the back, and we've got fuel filler caps. Looks like I might have lost a bit of plastic there. It's broken off, and it is in the bag, so we'll keep a hold of that. This is the other rear louver deck, possibly for the radiators on the engine. Again, beautiful detail, and maybe you can see it with those grab handles, but the way they've molded those grab handles, I'm really impressed with, because they almost look like there's an undercut on them, and they'll paint up brilliantly. That's part of your assembly of your front idler wheels, and then we've got hatch details here. This will probably be the driver's hatch, and there's not an injector pin mark in sight. So like I said, where it counts, Amusing Hobbies have come good with no ejector pins. Right, springs, we do have springs, so it would appear we're going to have working suspension. How much use that is, I don't know. Photo etch, I'm not going to take out the bag, but it is very fine, thin photo etch. It'll be for the bustle. That's part of the track guard system, and I'm not sure what those bits are, but and then we go Amusing Hobby 2020, so it is a brand new release. Decals, very small decal sheets, two of them, one for the flags, one for the actual vehicle marking. Now I might use the Union flag, I don't know, the Scottish flag. I'm not sure about the Irish flag. I'm not sure where this has come from, be an Ulster regiment, but correct me if I'm wrong, and I apologise if I offend anyone, but I may well actually use the Scottish flag. I do live in Scotland, so being a bit patriotic, I probably will put that on the antenna. Let's have a look at the markings. So we peel back this nice protective covering over it, and they look nice, and they're matte, I'll give them that. They look very fine. There doesn't seem to be, I don't know if you can see any reflection in the lights, but the carrier film's very fine, so it's not going to present too much of a problem when it comes to bedding them down with a bit of microsol, and then a touch of varnish over them, and they'll soon disappear in the model, so you won't end up with problems with getting lines around your carrier films. And the last plastic part is the hull. Good, deep, positive location points for the running gear and the track guards. Nice sturdy bit of kit, a little bit of webbing in there, so there's very little flex in that hole, so it's a good foundation for the rest of the kit build. Tow rope looks really nice. It's not fluffy, so we won't have to replace that for wire. We'll see how we go when it gets painted, but I think I probably will end up using that. And then last but not least, tracks. Now, I am going to take a couple out. I don't know if there's enough in there. It said 102 per side, so we're looking to have at least 204 tracks in here, and I don't know if there is 204 tracks in here, but they're only small, so I might be wrong. Let's get a couple out and do a test fit, shall we? So they're all individual. They're all off the sprues. Let's see what light they are. So, sorry, I'm knocking it here. Let's focus on my hand. That shows you how small they are. Very, very small, very fine. The detail on them is really nice. Let's see how well we can clip them together. I don't think we need to do any cleanup on them at all, whatsoever. Maybe just a little bit of cleanup, but let's see. How do they fit? Well, they fit together easy enough. I don't know if they're going to hold together. I think what we need to do is pop them together and then just run a bit of Tamiya extra thin over them. And then when we get a full track run, before we put the track guards on, get all the running gear assembled up, and then, yeah, there's a clip, there's a positive clip there. So we haven't got that first one lined up well enough. I think it might be a one-shot wonder with these. They'll clip once and hold together, and then if they come apart and you try again, they possibly have bruised up the locating points and they won't go back together again. I don't know if you can hear that. A nice little clip. I'll see if I can get that on the camera. There we go. No, okay. Definitely holding together. They're probably going to hold enough together to assemble it. I think for me, I'll be putting some glue on it once I've got them all assembled and around the track running gear to hold them in place so they set them solid. As I'm no needing to mould any suspension travel or anything like that, but as tracks go, they're nicely detailed. They look to be reasonably in scale and they go together well, and you don't have to do any cleanup on them, which is a massive, massive bonus, which means you can just get them out of the bag, sort them into two piles, make up your two track runs and go. So you're not going to be spending hours and hours making track, getting frustrated. Well, there we go. That's all the parts out of the box and look through. Let's get myself tidied up and we'll sum up a bit. So there we are, amusing hobbies. Centurion Mk.5 AVRE, Armoured Vehicle Royal Engineers. And I have to say, I'm really impressed with the kit. It is moulded in nice crisp styrene. The moulding is nice and detailed. Yeah, it's a little bit soft, but it's not going to detract from the overall model, I don't think. Once you've got it finished, painted and weathered, you're still going to see the detail, it's still going to pop. It's of an interesting subject. Fans of Cold War British armour and engineers vehicle are going to absolutely go for this in droves, I would think. I personally have been really excited about this kit from when I heard it was being tooled, and so excited to get my hands on it. And it's a really interesting subject, so you're going to be able to do loads of different dioramas from it. It served quite a long time in the British Army in many different theatres, so you're looking at the training ground in Canada. It served certainly in the British Army. The Rhine would have been in mainland UK as well as in the Gulf region, so you've got a huge different scope for dioramas and vignettes to use this vehicle. It doesn't look to be too complicated to build. Obviously, until I build it, I can't say. The chances of me building it is quite high quite soon. It may have pulled itself forward in the build list just purely for the subject and how excited I am about it. So that's the review. I have to say I would recommend this kit for anyone. It's not just too expensive. I think it's retailing around about £55 or so in the UK, which is comparable to other model companies and kits of this type with this amount of plastic in the box. And yeah, go and get one, you know, click the button and have some fun. So that's the review. Thanks for watching if you stuck it out this far. If you've got any questions or comments, stick them down below. I always read all the questions and comments and I always answer them back. And if you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd appreciate that. That'd be fine. Until next time, guys, stay safe, happy modelling, and we'll see you soon.